Welcome everyone to CDO's Magazine series of one-on-one interviews with CDOs, data leaders, and key influencers. I'm your host, Robert Lutton, Vice President, Sandhill Consultants, and I'm coming to you today from Toronto, Canada, working with the CDO Magazine. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Jack Berkowitz. Jack, I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And you're CDO at Securiti, and I believe you're at the airport, right?
Yeah, I'm at the airport. Just was out meeting a bunch of other CDOs yesterday, and just caught me in between travels.
Well, listen, I know that there may be some background, so we'll just make our plea in advance that this is kind of real life situations, right? So we're on the road, but we'll hopefully you'll forgive us for that, but we'll be able to get the real Jack on the road as he goes from client to client. So, Jack, just a quick introduction from you to our audience. I noticed that you started your career a little bit more on the technical side, but very quickly you moved into the executive business side over the years, and that's been the predominant role you've been in. How has that experience helped you in the role of CDO?
If you look at the role today, maybe not the role from 5 years ago or
Right.
10 years ago, where everybody was very legally oriented, but today it's really about technology and all of the regulatory and really all of that coming together. And at the end of the day, companies are looking at the CDO now as a business advantage. So stacking those three things together is important. So whatever your career journey is, you should embrace the learning on all those sides. And I've been lucky enough, blessed enough to be able to be put into those positions.
And you know what? I love that approach. Because every day is a blessing that we're given, and we just take the advantage of that. Now, I believe that in all the interviews we've been doing, I haven't seen much of a focus on something that I believe you're deeply involved in, which is unstructured data, and obviously how you can leverage that with generative AI and large language models to enhance clients' products and services or internal processes. Can you share with us maybe some success stories or perhaps lessons learned of how you're seeing clients realize they can tap into this unstructured data lake or environment to really help them get better utilization of their unstructured data?
Sure, sure. If you think about unstructured data or you think about structured data, all the databases and everything,
Hmm.
we've seen billions and billions of dollars of investment
Yeah.
made by companies over the past 20, 25 years. There's still issues, but you're seeing all the advantages of using that data. If you go back 25 years ago, we actually had unstructured data management systems, things like Documentum. And I worked for a company in Europe called Reef, where we had content management. People would tag, but it was really heavyweight.
Yeah.
Um, and people stopped using it because of that. But now when we look at generative AI and whether you want to use it for, retrieval augmented generation, whether you want to train your own models, whether you want to do summarization of documents, if you're a law firm, whatever it happens to be, you kind of need to make sure that you're using the right data. So we're starting to see companies and they tend to be in things that are assisting people right now where they're able to use that data. The people at Morgan Stanley, I'm not, related or associated with them, but
Right.
Jeff McMillan at Morgan Stanley has a great example about just improving the wealth manager's experience by tapping all of the unstructured comments and all of the unstructured data by helping and bringing that through OpenAI so that they get a summary so the wealth managers know what's going on in the account very, very quickly. And so you're starting to see these types of use cases, which are really about helping people move forward. Now, to do that, you got to invest. You got to understand where your content is. What are the layers of content? Is this a blessed piece of content? Is this out of date? What version? All of that has to be managed and put together.
There's really, so much unstructured data coming around from video, from text, from social media that can help the individual understand more about their environment or who they're actually dealing with. In your dealings with clients, what are some of the most common challenges that you see when they're trying to harness the power of unstructured data, and how does the organization like Securiti help them overcome these obstacles?
And it's really three big challenges. First of all, just finding it, understand, just even to know where it is. The second challenge then is to start to structure it along in data governance, like having data stewards and things like that. What's the blessed content? And then what's in there? How do I protect that is the third challenge. Because there may be information in there that's PII or company specific or confidential. You don't want that flowing or being included in the response or flowing over an edge of a border. So at Securiti, we help clients do basically all of those challenges. We can detect models that are being used. We can detect data where it's at. We can identify information that maybe, whether it's critical personal information or other types of information. We can summarize those documents. And then we're working on building, essentially pipelines and firewalls to be able to flow data into LLMs and then put firewalls around that so that you protect that information so that it's not going into a place that you don't expect or that it can be queried unexpectedly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely with generative AI and large models that we want to be able to kind of protect that information. We know that the world of unstructured data is complex. It's complex in nature. You're right. There were some applications, document them in the old
Great
days.
application.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and it kind of has faded away, but from because of these complex natures, and you just touched upon it there, what kind of data governance strategies would you recommend to clients to ensure that they're compliant with the regulatory approvals, which you mentioned, which is one of the three pillars you want to solve? That it's secure, the data is secure, so it isn't going where it shouldn't be, and obviously dealing with the privacy issues. Without all of that, without stifling innovation, what kind of recommendations have you got for clients?
I think the first thing is to recognize that you want to engage the businesses and the teams where they exist, right? So if you're going to put down a governance program, you don't want to now. I mean, one of the problems with documenting is everything had to go to one UI.
Right.
So you want to experience and provide their ability to experience where they're at. And so, the system should be able to reach them by email or by wherever they happen to be, so that they can approve this is the content that I agree with using, or hey, here's the content that I don't want to use. So it's the business user generating the content. So you as a data team need to recognize that, right? It's not as the same as structured data. The second part of it is keep it fresh, right? So you need to be continually scanning and understanding that data. Versions are being changed, content's being changed constantly, regulations change. So you need to be having a cohesive view of all of that attached to the regulations, attached to your own policies. These aren't separate pillars either, right? So just the same way as you have your structured data, the reality is most of these applications in the future are going to be a merge of the unstructured content and some of your structured information. So you want to see it in all in one continuous view.
Oh, excellent. I want to kind of come back to a lot of organizations are in a digital transformation, and you can't get to where you're going without looking at how unstructured data plays a role in this. What advice would you give to your fellow CDOs and how to leverage this data type effectively?
I think one of the big things is to start with some use cases that you can understand quickly. It's not the time to boil the ocean and to come out and say, we're going to have $1 billion changes, but it is the time to go get your hands dirty and start to build your systems and lay these things down and understand that you need to treat this seriously. But go take a couple of things and go get going. And that could be getting going by building something, like we talked about, assisting your customer service or your customer engagement teams, or get going with some summarization of some documents for legal or HR, and start to understand how that works now. I think what you'll find out over time is that these things start to build on top of each other. Right. They're not separate use cases. A lot of companies are like, well, we've identified 100 separate use cases, but they're not. Nothing in your company is separate. right? Everything's interconnected. And so one use case will then expand to another, and then you'll find a third that you never knew about. But
Right.
you can't do that unless you're starting to exercise that energy, that creativity.
Now, you mentioned you work for a company called Securiti, and they've got a wonderful product out called a data command center. It wouldn't be fair to have you impart all this knowledge without you maybe giving a little bit of a kind of plug for how Securiti's data command center could be leveraged for extracting value out of unstructured data. Can you share any examples of how CDOs and other data leaders have been able to get actionable insights from the data command center?
Yeah, definitely. So the data command center is our notion of a platform that unifies not just the concerns of the CDO, but also that of the CISO, the CIO, the chief privacy officer, all of that brought together. At the end of the day, it's that communication across a company that actually creates, whether it's a security advantage or a business advantage, those types of things. By building dynamically, essentially a command graph of all that information, the data command center allows somebody like me or somebody like the people listening to this to really be an effective business leader, not just an effective technology leader or effective policy leader. Lets them really start to create. And so we have customers today that are using the system, hundreds of customers using the system that are analyzing unstructured data to identify redundant data. So, data that needs to be removed because it's been copied inappropriately. We've got people that are using it to protect information embedded in documents before they email them out or before they're sent out and file transfers. We have people using the unstructured content to simply understand that there's, issues related to breach. And again, security and privacy and CDO. Now what you're seeing is because we have all of those hooks into the data and all of these great capabilities happening with unstructured, now we're able to do some really unique things. We can sense the use of AI models inside of the system, inside of your systems, to make sure whether or not people are using those things appropriately within your company's guidelines. And then, like I was saying, now that we have all this sense, we can protect the unstructured data moving out of hand. Now, this isn't being done just by the data scientists, but it's actually now up leveled to the C level in the company.
Right.
So that you can look at your CEO or you can look at your board of directors of a Fortune 500 company and say, yeah, we're putting down the governance. And by the way, here it is. And I think the biggest thing that we're hearing from customers, and I'm at an airport because I've been out, I literally was with four customers yesterday. The companies don't even realize the amount of content that they have. No. And so when they go to their CEOs and they're like, actually we have hundreds of millions of documents. How's that possible?
It's very easy. It's very easy. Even the smallest organization can create, hundreds of thousands of
and then you start emailing. And you
Yeah.
start emailing PowerPoints around and somebody copies it and somebody copies it again. It loses its classification. Before you know it, it's on some shared drive on a Dropbox. It just goes on and on and on.
And so a data command center would actually help you sense that and sort of identify that and help you track that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. Some of it deals with that. It also creates a dynamic people graph so you can see who has access to that information, as well as you can use the inverse of that people graph, who these documents and the data is talking about, so that if you have, for example, a DSR request, a data subject rights request, you're not only taking it out of the structured data, but you can actually move the unstructured documents about you where somebody's mentioned. So all of that's put together because at the end of the day, right, a CDO needs to be in control of the data of the company. Every company is a data business today. I'm sitting in an airport, looking at American Airlines planes. Yeah, they're transporting people, but if the data is not flowing for American Airlines, these planes aren't taking off.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is becoming a data world.
Every company is a data world if you think about it in that light.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jack, I just have a couple more questions, and I really appreciate you dialing in from the airport. So for CDOs and business executives who perhaps are not leveraging unstructured data as a key asset, as a competitive advantage, how would you get them to rethink this approach?
I think the thing is think about your own life and think about the context as an individual or as you're using your team. You're writing emails, you put a resume together at some point to be able to get your job.
Yeah.
There's write-ups about performance reviews. There's write-ups about all sorts of different things going on. You're calling for support from your cable TV or whatever, or your internet provider. All of that is the context of your existence, of your company's existence. That's actually the wealth of knowledge in the context for your business. So I think that business leaders and CDOs should be starting to think about, wait a second, what's my value? Is my value just to make sure that we're not violating a regulation? Or is my value actually to help our company move forward, or if it's a government organization or a nonprofit, our mission to move forward? And really the CDOs who are thinking about their role at the business level.
Yes.
Then this becomes self-obvious. And that's what I encourage everybody. Think about yourself as a business leader first, who happens to be responsible for one of the key aspects of the company.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing a pivot with the Gen AI and the large language models, with the CDO moving into that role of being that business advocate and leveraging the data to enhance the business. So that's a good point there. Last question, Jack. With the increased relevance of unstructured data, how do you see the role, and you touched upon it there, but how do you see the roles and responsibilities of the CDO evolving in the context of data strategy and governance?
I think what you're going to see is that instead of CDOs being a departmental responsibility, the CDO is going to be sitting right across from the chief executive, not EO, but the CXOs, the people operating those business units, those organizations. They're hungry for this, right?
Right.
Whether it's for optimizing their business or competitive advantage. And they're not, they're operators. They're looking to you to help them operate their businesses more effectively. Because if not, right, other people are going to come and displace your company, right?
Right.
Other people are going to take advantage of this emergence of technology. And by the way, this isn't just going to be 1 year. This is the next 20 years. And this emergence of technology and this emergence of capability is going to be for the next 20 years. Your role and the advantage now is to be sitting there side by side in the executive room, having the discussions and driving forward businesses, as opposed to, hey, let me just tell you what happens if we get violated because of a GDPR violation. That stuff's important. But now think about the most responsive companies in the world and what they're doing to push data forward. This is that next evolution.
And it sounds like a lot of companies, obviously the meetings that you've been having, are realizing that they want to take advantage of unstructured data, and the way they can do it is through Gen AI and these language models that are out there. So, Jack, I know it's been quick. By the way, where are you off to?
I'm actually going to go home for a few days. So I'm heading back to Atlanta for a couple of days, which would be nice. But then I'm going to be in Australia a week after next, meeting with other clients. And so, the reception of this notion of the data command center has been outstanding. The reception of it now being extended to AI and Gen AI is something we're just grateful for.
Well, Jack, we wish you safe travels and have a wonderful trip to Australia. Somewhere I haven't been yet, but it's on my to-do list. But we appreciate you, providing your time at the airport, and there wasn't much of an overbleed at all. So I think this is a great touch point. We hope that we can get you back to have the chance to share and update the knowledge on how things are going in the unstructured world of data, and the experience of security on the data command center, and the experience that you're having with our clients. So thank you very much indeed for your time, Jack.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And for our listeners, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you.